The unsent letters. Before you dive into this incredibly emotional journey, take a second to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, what's a secret that changed your life forever? Did you know our mum? The tiny voice sliced through the crisp London air like a shard of ice. Arthur Hayes froze, a bouquet of white lilies still clutched in his hand. He came to this quiet corner of Hampstead Cemetery every Tuesday, a ritual offering at Eleanor's grave. But he'd never expected to find two identical little girls standing before the headstone. "What did you say?" he asked. Not yet turning around. "We asked if you knew Eleanor Vance," one of them repeated, a little bolder than the other. "She was our mom." Arthur slowly turned. The girls couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Their messy brown hair, worn clothes, and ill-fitting shoes belied something profound in their eyes that were exact replicas of Eleanor's. "What are your names?" he croaked, his voice thick with sudden emotion. "I'm Poppy," the more resolute one said. "This is Lily." She paused, then added, "And you're Arthur Hayes?" The name fell from her lips like a whispered prayer. Arthur felt the ground sway beneath his feet. "Who told you that name?" "Our gran told us before she died," Poppy explained. "She said our mom always talked about you, that you were our dad." The lilies slipped from Arthur's grasp, scattering across the damp earth. His heart pounded so fiercely, he was sure the girls could hear it. "That's impossible," he mumbled. "Eleanor never told me." "Because she couldn't find you," Lily interrupted, speaking for the first time. "Gran said Mum looked for you loads of times, but you never answered." "What Gran?" Arthur asked, trying to clear his reeling mind. "Eleanor had no family. The lady who looked after us after Mum died," Poppy clarified. "She wasn't our real Gran, but that's what we called her. She worked at the hospital where Mum spent her last days." Arthur stepped closer to the girls. Now he could see them more clearly. They not only had Eleanor's eyes, but also her small nose and the shape of her mouth. The resemblance was so striking, it hurt to look. "Where have you been living?" "At the children's home," Valentina replied. "But the director said we're too old to stay there now. They're going to separate us." "We don't want to be separated," Lily cried suddenly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We're twins. We have to stay together." Arthur felt a strange sensation in his chest, as if something was breaking and mending all at once. "How did you get here?" "A man from the home helped us," Poppy explained. "He said we had a right to know who you were. He drove us here, but he left a while ago." Arthur looked around. The cemetery was empty, just the three of them standing before Eleanor's grave. The sun was beginning to set, and a chill settled in the air. "Are you hungry?" The girls nodded timidly. "Come with me," Arthur said, gathering the scattered lilies. "Let's talk somewhere warmer." As they walked towards his car, Poppy took her sister's hand and whispered something in her ear. Lily nodded, then ran up to Arthur. "Mr. Hayes," she said, tugging on his jacket. "Are you really our dad?" Arthur stopped. He looked at the two girls watching him with a mixture of hope and fear. He had no answer for that question. "Not yet," he replied honestly. "But we're going to find out." "Look what we have," Poppy said, pulling a crumpled envelope from her worn backpack. They were sitting in a small cafe near the cemetery. Arthur had ordered them burgers, but they'd barely touched them. Too nervous. Poppy spread a yellowed piece of paper on the table. It was Eleanor Vance's death certificate. Arthur read the date. 3 years ago. A knot tightened in his throat. "It says here she died at Royal London Hospital," Arthur murmured. I didn't even know she was ill." "Mum didn't want to bother you," Lily explained softly. "Gran told us Mum said you had a new life." Arthur closed his eyes. He remembered the last months of his marriage with Eleanor. The constant arguments, her wanting children, his refusing again and again. "I'm not ready," he'd told her. "My own father was terrible to me. I don't want to repeat that." "Is there anything else?" he asked. Poppy pulled out another paper, smaller and folded many times. Gran gave us this too. Arthur unfolded the paper. It was a page from a notebook in Eleanor's handwriting. It simply read, Arthur Hayes, father of Poppy and Lily Vance. Please look after them if anything happens to me. Arthur's hands trembled. This doesn't prove anything, he said, though his voice sounded unsure. Anyone can write a name on a piece of paper. So you don't believe us? Poppy asked, her eyes welling up with tears. It's not that I don't believe you, Arthur responded quickly. It's just that I need to be sure. To protect you both, too. He fell silent for a moment, thinking. If they really were his daughters, his whole world would change. If they weren't, these girls still needed help. We'll get a DNA test, he decided. It's the only way to know the truth. What's that? Lily asked. It's a test that compares my blood to yours, Arthur explained. If we're family, it'll show up in the results. The girls looked at each other. Will it hurt? Poppy asked. Just a tiny bit, like a mosquito bite. Arthur pulled out his phone and searched for a clinic that did DNA tests. He found one that was open late. We can go right now, he said. The results take 3 days. On the way to the clinic, the girls were quiet in the back seat. Arthur watched them in the rearview mirror. Lily sucked her thumb, and Poppy hugged her. At the clinic, a kind nurse explained the procedure. She took blood samples from all three. The girls were very brave, though Lily cried a little. The results will be ready on Friday, the nurse said. Do you have somewhere to stay in the meantime? Arthur looked at the girls. He hadn't thought of that. We have to go back to the home, Poppy said sadly. No, Arthur replied immediately. You're coming with me. The girls looked at him, surprised. Really? Lily asked. Really. Until we know the results, you're staying with me. Arthur called the children's home and spoke with the director. He explained the situation and arranged for the girls to stay with him temporarily. That night, in his London flat, Arthur put clean sheets on the living room sofa. You can sleep here, he told them. Tomorrow we'll buy proper beds. The girls put on the pajamas they'd brought in their backpacks. They were tiny and had holes. Mr. Hayes, Poppy said before lying down. What will happen if the test says you are our dad? Arthur sat on a chair facing them. Then we'll be a family, he replied, and I'll look after you forever. And what if it says no? Arthur thought for a moment. Then I'll help you find a good family to adopt you. Together. The girls smiled for the first time all day. Good night, Mr. Hayes, they said at the same time. Good night, he responded. But Arthur couldn't sleep that night. He stayed awake, staring out the window, thinking about Eleanor. Why had she never told him she was pregnant? Why had she left without a word? Deep down, he already knew the answer to the DNA test. These girls had to be his. The white envelope arrived on a Friday morning. Arthur held it in his hands for several minutes without opening it. Poppy and Lily were eating cereal at the kitchen table, watching him nervously. Aren't you going to open it? Poppy asked. Yes, right now, Arthur replied, but his hands were shaking. He tore open the envelope and pulled out the results sheet. He read in silence, and his face went pale. What does it say? Lily asked, dropping her spoon into the bowl. Arthur looked up at the girls. It says I'm your father. Probability, 99.9%. The girls looked at each other, then ran towards him. They hugged him for the first time, and Arthur felt his breath catch. We already knew, Poppy whispered against his chest. You have the same eyes as us. But Arthur didn't feel happy. He felt confused and angry. Why did Eleanor never tell me anything? He murmured. Why did she lie to me? That afternoon, while the girls watched television, Arthur began searching for answers. He called some of Eleanor's old friends, but none knew anything about a pregnancy. It was as if Eleanor had vanished from his life without a trace. Then he remembered something. Bethany, his former secretary. She had worked with him during the last months of his marriage to Eleanor. She'd always been very attentive, perhaps too attentive. Arthur found Bethany's number and called her. "Arthur?" she answered, surprised. "What a surprise to hear from you after all these years. I need to talk to you, it's important." They met at a cafe near the office where they used to work together. Bethany had changed little, but seemed nervous. "What did you want to talk about?" she asked, fiddling with her coffee cup. "About Eleanor," Arthur said directly, "and why I never knew she'd had my daughters." Bethany went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Bethany, I just met my daughters. They're 8 years old. Eleanor died 3 years ago, and I never knew anything. How is that possible?" Bethany lowered her gaze. I didn't." "Tell me the truth," Arthur insisted. "I know you know something." Bethany began to cry. "She wrote you letters," she finally admitted. "Lots of letters. She sent them to the office because she didn't have your new address." "What letters?" "I never received any letters from Eleanor." "Because I intercepted them," Bethany whispered. "I hid them. I never gave them to you." Arthur felt the blood rush to his head. "You did what?" "I was in love with you," Bethany cried. "I'd been in love with you for years. When you got divorced, I thought I had a chance. But if you knew about the girls, you'd go back to her." Arthur stood up from the table so quickly, he knocked over his chair. "Where are those letters?" "I burned them," Bethany sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Arthur. I'm so sorry." Arthur walked out of the cafe without another word. He was furious, but also bedazzled. Eleanor had tried to contact him. She had wanted him to know about their daughters, and he'd never had the chance to be there for her. When he arrived home, the girls were doing homework at the dining room table. They looked up when he entered. "Are you all right?" Poppy asked. "You look sad." Arthur sat with them. "I just found out something important," he told them. "Your mom did try to contact me when you were born. She wrote many letters, but I never received them." "Why not?" Lily asked. "Because a bad person hid them," Arthur explained gently. "But now I know the truth." Poppy placed her small hand over Arthur's. "Mom always said you were a good man," she said. "She said you'd find us one day." "She said that?" "Yes. She told us not to worry, that our dad would look after us when the time was right." Arthur felt his eyes well up with tears. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you," he said. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for your mom." "But you're here now," Lily said. "And Mom always said what's important isn't when you arrive, but that you arrive." That night, Arthur stayed awake, thinking about Eleanor, about how she must have felt raising the girls alone, about how she must have waited for his letters, about how she died without knowing if he would ever meet her daughters. But he also thought about Poppy and Lily, sleeping on his living room sofa. They were here now. They were his daughters, and he wasn't going to fail them ever again. What do you think Arthur will do now that he knows the truth? What's the biggest challenge he'll face as a new father? Share your predictions in the comments below. Arthur didn't know how to be a dad. He woke up every morning and saw the girls eating breakfast at his table, but he felt like a stranger in his own home. "Do you want more cereal?" he'd ask, keeping his distance. "Yes, please," they'd politely reply. But they never talked like a real family. Arthur bought them what they needed, took them to the new school he'd found. But he didn't know what else to do. A week after the DNA results, Arthur decided to move to a larger flat. His only had one bedroom, and the girls needed their own space. "This will be your room," he told them, opening the door to an empty room in the new place. The girls entered shyly. It was a large room with 2 windows and lots of light. "Can we put our things here?" Poppy asked. "Of course, it's your room." But when the girls opened their backpacks, Arthur realized they had almost nothing. Just a couple of changes of clothes, an old book, and a small photograph. "Is that all you have?" he asked. "At the home, they didn't let us have many things," Lily explained. "They said it was easier for moving." Arthur felt a pressure in his chest. These girls had lived with nothing for years. "Tomorrow, we'll buy everything you need," he promised. The next day, they went to a big shop. Arthur told them to choose whatever they wanted, but the girls only picked the cheapest items. "Don't you want that doll?" Arthur asked, seeing Lily gaze at an expensive doll. "It costs a lot of money," she replied. "We don't want to spend too much of yours." "I'm your dad," Arthur said. "It's my job to spend money on you." But saying those words felt strange in his mouth. "I'm your dad." Was he? Really? Just because the DNA said so? That night, Arthur was working on his laptop when he heard crying. He got up and went to the girls' room. Lily was sitting on her new bed, crying silently. "What's wrong?" he asked from the doorway, not entering. "I can't sleep," Lily sobbed. "I miss Mom." Arthur stood there, not knowing what to do. He should hug her. He should sit with her. His own father had never comforted him as a child. "You'll be all right," was all he could say. "You'll feel better tomorrow." He went back to his room, but he felt terrible. He had failed. A good father would have known what to do. The next day, while the girls were at school, Arthur found something that surprised him. On Lily's desk was a drawing. It was a family. A woman with long hair, 2 girls holding hands, and a tall man with his back turned, walking away from them. The drawing hit him like a punch. That was what the girls saw. A man walking away, just like all the adults in their lives. When the girls returned from school, Arthur was waiting for them in the living room. "How was your day?" he asked. "Good," Poppy replied. "Our teacher asked us about our family for a project." "What did you tell her?" "That we just found our dad?" Lily said. "But that we still didn't know if we were going to stay with him." The words were like a slap to Arthur. Why did they say that? Poppy looked him directly in the eyes. "Because you don't act like our dad," she said with brutal honesty. "You act as if we're guests in your house." Arthur felt exposed. The girls were right. "I don't know how to be a dad," he finally admitted. "My dad was never good to me. I don't want to hurt you." "But by doing nothing, you do hurt us," Poppy said. "We need to know you want us here." That night, Arthur stayed awake, thinking about Poppy's words. He'd been so worried about not being like his father that he'd forgotten to be any kind of father. He got up and went to the girls' room. They were asleep, but Lily was restless, as if having nightmares. Arthur sat in the chair by her bed. He didn't know what to do, but he wasn't going to walk away. "I'm here," he whispered. "Your dad is here." Lily stopped moving. Her breathing calmed. Arthur stayed there all night, watching over his daughter's sleep. For the first time, he felt like what he was, a father. The next day, when the girls woke up, they found him asleep in the chair. "Did you stay here all night?" Poppy asked. "Yes," Arthur replied, rubbing his aching neck. "And I'll stay every night necessary." The girls smiled. It was the first real smile they'd given him. The doorbell rang on a Saturday morning. Arthur opened the door and found an older lady with a walking stick and a plastic bag in her hand. "Are you Arthur Hayes?" the woman asked. "Yes." "How can I help you?" "I'm Bethany Clark. I was Eleanor's neighbor when the girls were babies." Arthur felt his heart quicken. "Please, come in," he invited her. Poppy and Lily were watching cartoons in the living room. When they saw the lady, they ran to her. "Mrs. Clark!" Lily cried, hugging her. "My beautiful girls," the lady said, stroking their heads. "How are you with your dad?" "Good," Poppy replied. "He stays with us at night when we have nightmares." Mrs. Clark looked at Arthur with approval. "Eleanor would be happy to know that," she said. They sat in the living room. The lady took a worn notebook from her bag. "I came to bring you this," she told Arthur. "Eleanor gave it to me before she went to the hospital. She asked me to give it to you if you ever showed up." Arthur took the notebook with trembling hands. On the cover, it said, "For Arthur," in Eleanor's handwriting. "Is it Mum's diary?" Poppy asked. "Yes, my dear. Your mum wrote in it every day, Daisy. Toi, every ma vriande." Why didn't you give it to us before? Arthur asked. Because I didn't know where to find you, Mrs. Clark explained. Eleanor told me your name, but I didn't have your address. When I saw in the newspaper that you'd won that Entrepreneur of the Year award, I knew it was you. But I didn't know if you'd want to know about the girls. Eleanor knew I'd been successful. Of course she did. She always followed you in the news. She was proud of you, though also very sad. Arthur opened the diary. The first page was dated 8 years ago. Arthur, if you're reading this, it means you finally met our daughters. I know you'll be angry with me for not telling you sooner, but I was scared. Can I read it privately? Arthur asked. Of course, Mrs. Clark said. Girls, do you want to come with me to get some ice cream? Let your dad read in peace. When they left, Arthur sat in his room with the diary. He began to read from the beginning. Eleanor wrote about the pregnancy, about how she'd discovered they were twins, about her fear of telling him. She also wrote about him. Arthur always said he didn't want children, because his father had been terrible. But I saw how he was with children on the street, how his face lit up. He would be a wonderful father if he gave himself the chance. Arthur continued reading. Eleanor wrote about the birth, about the girls' first words, about sleepless nights. The girls have your eyes, Arthur. Poppy is brave like you, and Lily is sensitive like you too, though you don't like to admit it. Every day I talk to them about you. I tell them their dad is a good man, who will one day love them very much. Tears began to run down Arthur's cheeks. Eleanor had raised their daughters alone, but she had never spoken ill of him. On a middle page, he found something that devastated him. I went to your office today. I left a letter with your secretary. I explained everything about the girls. I gave her photos of them. I begged her to give it to you. She promised she would. But 2 months have passed, and you haven't responded. Maybe you don't want to know about us. Maybe it's better this way. Arthur closed the diary and cried out in frustration. Bethany had destroyed more than letters. She had destroyed years of family life. He continued reading. Eleanor wrote about her illness, about her fear of dying, and leaving the girls alone. If something happens to me, I hope Mrs. Clark can find you. The girls need to know who their dad is. They need to know they come from love, even if that love couldn't last forever. The last entry was written in shaky handwriting. Arthur, I'm not angry with you. I understand why you couldn't be here. But please, take care of our girls. They are the best thing we ever made together. They have your heart and my stubbornness. They will be incredible women if someone loves them enough. I know you can be that someone. When Arthur finished reading, he was crying like he hadn't cried since he was a child. He wasn't crying from rage or frustration. He was crying from love and loss. Eleanor had been stronger than he ever imagined. She had raised their daughters with love, patience, and hope. And now he had to continue what she had started. When the girls returned with Mrs. Clark, they found Arthur in the kitchen preparing dinner. Did you read Mum's diary? Lily asked. Yes, Arthur replied, turning to them. And now I understand many things. Like what? Poppy asked. Like your mum loved you more than anything in the world. And like I love you too, even if I'm just learning how to show it. For the first time, Arthur hugged his daughters without fear, and they hugged him back. This is such a powerful moment. What do you think will happen next for Arthur and his girls? And what's the most important lesson you've learned about family? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Dad, Poppy's bleeding! Lily screamed from the kitchen. Arthur rushed from his office and found Poppy sitting on the floor, her hand wrapped in a red towel. Broken glass from a tumbler was everywhere. What happened? He asked. Kneeling Bedjura. The glass slipped when I was washing the dishes, Poppy explained through tears. I wanted to help with the cleaning. It's okay, my love. Don't worry, Arthur said, carefully picking her up. Let's go to the hospital. At the hospital, she had 4 stitches in her palm. It wasn't serious, but Poppy was scared, and so was Arthur. Are you the girl's father? the doctor asked. Yes, Arthur replied automatically. How did the accident happen? Arthur explained about the glass. The doctor wrote everything in a report. We'll need you to fill out these papers, she said, handing him a folder. It's standard procedure for minor accidents. 2 days later, Arthur received an unexpected call. Mr. Hayes, this is Ms. Davies from Social Services. We need to speak with you about the Vance girls. Arthur's heart stopped. What about my daughters? We received a report from the hospital about an accident. We need to schedule a home visit. But it was just an accident, Arthur protested. She was helping with the dishes. I understand, sir. But it's our duty to verify the girls are in a safe environment. We'll be there tomorrow at 10. Arthur hung up the phone, his hands trembling. What if they took the girls away? What if they decided he wasn't fit to be a father? That night, he explained to Poppy and Lily what was going to happen. Are they going to take us back to the home? Lily asked, scared. I won't let that happen, Arthur promised. They're just coming to make sure we're okay. But inside, he was afraid too. The next day, Ms. Davies arrived with another social worker. She was a serious woman with glasses and a folder full of papers. May I see the girls' rooms? She asked. Arthur showed them the entire house, the food in the fridge, the girls' beds, their new toys. Do the girls attend school regularly? Ms. Davies asked. Every day, Arthur replied. Here are their report cards. Do they have medical care? Yes, I've already registered them with my health insurance. Here are the cards. Ms. Davies spoke with the girls privately. Arthur stayed in the living room, nervous, trying to overhear the conversation. After an hour, the social workers left. What did they say? Arthur asked the girls. They asked if you treat us well, Poppy said. We told them yes. They also asked if you have girlfriends or if you drink alcohol, Lily added. And what did you tell them? The truth, Poppy replied. That you don't have a girlfriend and that we've never seen you drink. We also told them that you stay with us when we have nightmares. A week later, Arthur received another call from Ms. Davies. Mr. Hayes, we need you to come to an appointment with the family court judge. There are some concerns about the girls' custody. Arthur felt his world collapsing. On the day of the appointment, Arthur arrived at the courthouse with his solicitor. To his surprise, Bethany was there too. What's she doing here? Arthur asked. Ms. Bethany Scott requested a hearing. Ms. Davies explained. She claims to have important information regarding your ability to care for the girls. Arthur couldn't believe what he was hearing. Bethany was going to testify against him. When they entered the courtroom, the judge was a serious-faced, middle-aged woman. Mr. Hayes, the judge said, we are here to determine if you are fit for the legal custody of Poppy and Lily Vance. Bethany spoke first. She told the judge that Arthur was an irresponsible man, that he had abandoned Eleanor, that he knew nothing about being a father. This man refused to have children with Eleanor, Bethany lied. How can he be a good father now? Arthur felt his blood boil, but his solicitor placed a hand on his shoulder to calm him. Then it was the girls' turn. The judge called them into her chambers to speak privately. When they returned, Poppy asked to speak. May I say something, Your Honor? She asked. Of course, child. My dad didn't know we existed because that lady, she said, pointing at Bethany, hid my mum's letters. But since he met us, he's never left us alone. When I have nightmares, he stays with me. When Lily is sad, he hugs her. Maybe he doesn't know much about being a dad, but he's learning. And we love him. The judge looked at Arthur with softer eyes. Mr. Hayes, these girls clearly love you, but I need to make sure they can be safe with you. I'll do whatever it takes, Arthur responded. They are the most important thing in my life. The judge reviewed the papers on her desk for several minutes that felt like an eternity. Arthur was sweating cold as Poppy and Lily clung to his hands. Mr. Hayes, the judge finally said, I'm going to order a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. I also want a social worker to visit your home every week for 3 months. What does that mean? Arthur asked. It means that for now, the girls can stay with you under supervision. But if you don't comply with all the requirements, I will have to reconsider custody." Bethany stood up from her seat. "That's not fair," she cried. "He knows nothing about being a father." "Ms. Scott," the judge replied firmly, "you've given your testimony. And I must say that admitting to intercepting correspondence doesn't help you much as a credible witness." When they left the courthouse, Arthur hugged his daughters with relief. But he knew the battle wasn't over. Over the next few weeks, Arthur did everything the judge had ordered. The parenting classes were difficult, but he learned a lot about how to talk to the girls, how to set boundaries, and how to show affection. "How was class today?" Poppy would ask when he returned. "I learned it's okay to tell you I love you every day," Arthur would reply. "Before, I thought it was too much." "It's never too much," Lily would say. Hugging him, the psychologist was also helpful. He helped him understand that his fear of becoming like his father had led him to not be any kind of father. "You are not his father, Mr. Hayes," the doctor explained. "You can choose to be different." The social worker's visits became routine. Ms. Davies saw how the girls did homework, how they ate dinner together, how Arthur helped them bathe and put them to bed. "The girls look happy," she admitted after the 6th visit. "They've improved a lot in school." But one night, Mrs. Clark called, very agitated. "Arthur, I found something else among Eleanor's things. It's very important." The next day, the lady arrived with a shoebox full of papers. "Eleanor kept copies of all the letters she wrote to you," she explained. "She also had receipts from when she went to your office." Arthur reviewed the papers. There were copies of 15 letters addressed to him. In each one, Eleanor told him about the pregnancy, about the girl's birth, about how they were growing up. There was also a taxi receipt from the day she went to his office, and a note that said, "Letter delivered to Secretary B. Scott, March 15th. "This is evidence," Arthur's solicitor said. "It proves that Eleanor did try to contact him, and that Bethany knew about the girls from the beginning. Can we use it in court? Absolutely. This changes everything." The final hearing was 2 weeks later. This time, Mrs. Clark came as a witness. She brought the box of papers and told the whole story. "Eleanor came to my house crying the day she went to the office," she testified. "She told me she had left a letter with the secretary and that the woman had promised to give it to Arthur. Eleanor waited for months for a reply that never came." The judge examined the letters carefully. Bethany looked smaller and smaller in her seat. "Ms. Scott," the judge said, "do you have anything to say about these letters?" Bethany did not respond. Then the judge called the girls again. This time, Lily asked to speak. "Your Honor," she said in her clear little voice, "my mom told us that our dad was good, but that sometimes good people need time to find their way. I think my dad has found his way now. He loves us, and we love him." The judge smiled for the first time in the entire process. "Poppy, what do you think?" "I think my dad isn't perfect," Poppy replied honestly. "But every day he tries to be better. He learns with us, and when he sees us cry, he cries too. That tells me he truly loves us." The judge closed the folder. "I have made my decision," she announced. "Mr. Hayes, I grant you full and legal custody of Poppy and Lily Vance. The evaluations show that you have made significant changes in your life to be the father these girls need." Arthur couldn't hold back his tears. The girls ran to him and hugged him. "We won, Dad!" Lily cried. "No, my love," Arthur replied. "We didn't win. We found each other." For the first time in his life, Arthur felt complete. He was officially the father of Poppy and Lily. There were no more doubts, no more fears, no more separations. They were a real family. Amazing. Arthur has his daughters. But what comes next for their family? Hit that like button if this story touched your heart, and leave a comment sharing what family means to you. 3 months after the trial, Arthur made a decision that surprised everyone. "You're selling the company?" his business partner asked, incredulous. "But we just won the biggest contract of the year." "I'm not selling all of it," Arthur explained. "Just my majority share. I want more time for my daughters." It was true. Since gaining legal custody, Arthur had realized that working 12 hours a day wasn't what he wanted for his new life. "Are you sure?" his partner insisted. "You'll lose a lot of money." "I'll gain a lot of time," Arthur replied. "And time with them is priceless." That afternoon, Arthur arrived home early. The girls were doing homework at the dining room table. "Why are you home so early?" Poppy asked. "Because I have a surprise for you," Arthur said, sitting with them. "Remember you've asked me about the house where I used to live with your mom?" The girls nodded. They had seen photos of that house in Eleanor's diary and were always curious. "Well, I found it, and I'm going to buy it." "Really?" Lily cried, jumping from her chair. "Really? Do you want to go see it?" The house was in a quiet neighborhood, with large trees and small gardens. It wasn't luxurious like the flat they lived in now, but it had something special. "This is where you lived when you were little," Arthur told them as they walked up the front path. The front door was blue, just like in the diary photos. Arthur took out the keys the estate agent had given him. "This was the living room," he said, opening the door. It was a cozy space with a fireplace and large windows. The girls ran through the house, exploring every corner. "Dad, come and see," Poppy cried from the back garden. Arthur went out and found the girls standing by an apple tree. "Mom told us about this tree," Lily explained. "She said one day we'd eat the apples together." "Do you like the house?" Arthur asked. "We love it," they replied at the same time. "Then we're moving next month." But moving meant more than changing addresses. Arthur sold most of his expensive furniture and bought simpler things. He painted the walls with colors the girls chose, yellow for their room, green for the kitchen. "Don't you miss your fancy flat?" Poppy asked one afternoon as they assembled a new table. "Not at all," Arthur replied. "This place has something my flat never had." "What?" "It has history. It has love. Your mom lived here. You were born here, in a way." "How were we born here?" Lily asked, confused. "Because this is where your mom dreamed of you before you existed," Arthur explained. In her diary, she wrote that she would sit in the garden and imagine playing with her daughters under the apple tree. The first night in the new house was special. Instead of separate beds, the girls asked for bunk beds. "We want to be closer," Poppy explained. "At the home, we always slept together. And what if one of you wants privacy when you're older? Then we'll see," Lily replied. "But for now, we want to be together." Arthur tucked them in and read them a story. It was something he had learned in parenting classes and now did every night. "Dad," Poppy said before he turned off the light, "do you think Mom would be happy to see us here?" Arthur sat in the chair between the two beds. "I think she'd be more than happy," he replied. "I think she'd be proud to see how much you've grown and to see that we are finally a family." "Do you like being our dad?" Lily asked. "It's the best thing that's ever happened to me," Arthur replied honestly. "Before I met you, I had many things, but I didn't have a family. Now I have everything I need." The girls smiled and closed their eyes. Arthur stayed for a while longer, watching them sleep. He thought about Eleanor, about what his life would have been like if he had known about the girls from the beginning. But he also thought about the present, about how every day he learned something new about being a father. He was no longer the rich and lonely man who visited graves. He was no longer the endlessly working businessman trying to fill a void in his heart. Now he was dad, and that was more important than anything else he had ever been in his life. The house felt complete with the girls' laughter, with their backpacks discarded by the entrance, with their drawings stuck on the fridge. For the first time in years, Arthur felt at home. 2 years later, On a Saturday morning, Arthur woke to the sound of laughter in the kitchen. He got up and found Poppy and Lily making breakfast. "Good morning, Dad," they said when he appeared. "Good morning, girls. What are you making?" "Surprise pancakes," Lily explained, flour on her nose. "It's the anniversary of when we moved into the house." Arthur smiled. The girls had grown so much in these 2 years. Poppy was now 10 and taller, more self-assured. Lily was still the more sensitive, but she no longer cried every night. "Do you remember what day today is, too?" Arthur asked. The girls looked at each other and then smiled. "Time to visit Mom," Poppy replied. It was a tradition they had started a year ago. Every month, the 3 of them went to the cemetery together to bring flowers to Eleanor. It was no longer sad, like when Arthur went alone. Now, it was like a family visit. After breakfast, they got dressed and went to Mrs. Davis's flower shop, who already knew them. "The usual flowers?" the lady asked. Yes, but today we need 3 roses instead of 1, Arthur said. 3? Why 3? Mrs. Davis asked. "1 for Mom, 1 for Dad, and 1 for us too," Lily explained. "Because now we're a complete family." At the cemetery, they walked along the path they now knew by heart. Eleanor's grave was clean and well tended. Arthur had placed a new headstone with a photo of Eleanor smiling. "Hello, Mom," Poppy greeted, kneeling by the grave. "We brought new flowers. And we have lots to tell you," Lily added. Arthur stood behind them, watching his daughters talk to Eleanor as if she were there listening. "Dad learned how to braid hair," Poppy told the headstone. "He doesn't make my pigtails crooked anymore. And now he cooks really well," Lily added. "Yesterday he made your chicken and vegetable recipe. We thought of you when we ate it." Arthur stepped closer and placed a hand on each girl's shoulder. "What else do you want to tell your mom?" "That we don't have nightmares anymore," Poppy said. "Well, sometimes we do, but Dad is always there. And that we have friends at school," Lily added. "We're not the weird new girls anymore. And what else?" The girls looked at each other as if they had planned something. "That we love you very much," they said at the same time. "And thank you for leaving the letters so Dad would know the truth." Arthur felt his eyes fill with tears. After 2 years, the girls still surprised him with their wisdom and their love. "My turn," Arthur said, kneeling beside them. "Eleanor, I'm sorry it took me so long to find them. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you needed me. But I want you to know that I'm taking good care of our daughters." "You said our daughters," Poppy noticed. "It doesn't say the girls or them anymore," Arthur explained. "Because now we know we're a real family. Your mom and I made you together, and even though she's not here anymore, we're still your parents together." They placed the 3 roses in the grave's vase, a red rose for Eleanor, a white rose for Arthur, and a yellow rose for the girls. "They look pretty together," Lily said. "Like us," Poppy added. When they stood to leave, Lily turned one last time. "Mom, we found you," she whispered. "And he looked after us, just like you said he would." Poppy took Arthur's other hand. "And we look after him too," she added. "Because that's what families do." Arthur closed his eyes and squeezed his daughter's hands. He felt a peace he had never known before. He was no longer the man who came alone to the cemetery with flowers and guilt. He was no longer the rich but empty businessman. He was Dad. He was part of a family. He was exactly who he had always been meant to be. When he opened his eyes, he saw the 3 roses moving gently in the breeze, as if Eleanor were there with them, smiling. "Let's go home," Arthur said. "Let's go home," the girls repeated. And the 3 of them walked together towards their new life, carrying Eleanor's love with them forever. Did Arthur, Poppy, and Lily's story move you? This beautiful tale about paternal love, second chances, and the importance of family reminds us that it's never too late to find our way, and that true love can overcome any obstacle. If this story touched your heart as it touched ours, don't forget to like the video and share it with your loved ones, who also need to remember the transformative power of family love. Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed the unsent letters and want to keep seeing more emotional stories like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any episodes. We love creating content that reaches the heart, and with your subscription, you help us continue sharing these stories that connect us as human beings. And tell us in the comments, from what country are you watching us? We want to know where our beloved followers are from.